Hey, welcome, welcome. It is September 16th, 2025. My name is Joey Ragona. This is the Hearts-Centered Marketing Show, podcast thingy, whatever you want to call it. But I'm glad you were here. Please let me know with a hashtag live or a hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. Tonight is one of my favorite things to talk about, which is the 5 levels of awareness from the famous Eugene Schwartz and breakthrough advertising. This is where everything comes from. All the marketing you see, all the copy you see. Everything stems from the customer levels of awareness. But what I find is many people do not use it to their advantage. I certainly do. All of my Atlas clients and Academy clients do. I talk about it every single week almost, and today was not an exception. So I figured I would create or show you some depth to the 5 levels other than just knowing what they are. And I also, before just coming on here live, I created, I'm just looking over here at my notes because it's so brand new, a Market Clarity Toolkit, which gives you 2 tools that will help you identify, what does it do? It helps you identify market awareness. It's a market awareness assessment, and it's a calibrated content creator based on the levels of awareness. So if you want those, I'm going to give those to you as well. I just created it, so give me a little bit of time after the show, but I'm going to be able to give it to you. By the way, if you want to just put the word, what am I going to use? Market Clarity. Put the word Market Clarity in the comments or DM me Market Clarity, and I'll give you the 2 tools. It's amazing. So first, let's do this. Let me go to my notes here, and I want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything as I go here. Okay. So the reason why you want to understand and use the levels of awareness is because many people that I speak to, they feel as though they're being ignored, their message isn't getting through, and that's because you're speaking to the wrong awareness level, right? So I see this so much that people are using normally the offers. It's like, hey, do you have this problem? And they go right to the offers in their content, in their post, whatever it is, and they're not speaking to the right level. You need to understand what the level of your clients are or your potential clients are. And I'm going to show you how to instantly diagnose this right now, and then use the tools that I'm going to give you for more of a deeper analysis. Okay. So this is based on, like I said, the levels of awareness on a practical breakdown of Eugene Schwartz, and I studied the breakthrough advertising quite a bit. Maybe I'm not the most expert in it, but I've quite a bit. And I'm going to give you some examples for coaches, consultants, course creators, all of this. We'll map out each of the levels with the right promise. So this is for experts, entrepreneurs. It's for people who are creating content, creating offers, and who just feel as though that their message or your message is really not converting. Okay. I want to welcome everybody to the show. If you're watching me live, let me know with a hashtag live in the comments or hashtag replay. And that would be cool. I'm here on the Instagram, so I just pressed live and hello Instagrams. Good to see you. I'm getting used to using all these platforms with all these monitors up here, and so it's a little bit tricky. Okay, let's look at the framework first, the 5 levels. I am going to, there we go. Does work. Okay, cool. My tech works. These are the 5 levels. First, I want to spell out the 5 levels for you, and then I'm going to move down into a deeper explanation of what they all mean and how we use it actually. Okay. The unaware is the first one. Let me actually, I think I have so let's go here. Unaware. Oops, let me try that again. Okay. Unaware. First, I'm going to draw out or map out what these are, and then I'm going to give you some more insight on how to use them, and even when it comes to copy. The next level is problem aware, and then there is solution aware. Then there's product aware. And then there is most aware. Okay. And so why is this important to understand? It's important because we need to understand where your clients are, first of all, so we can speak to them on that level. And there's different there's different reasons. So you know what I'll do is I'm going to jump ahead and explain for a second why we're moving customers through this phase. On the unaware area, these are implied needs. This is where somebody would say, okay, if somebody only knew this, then they would buy my stuff. And I totally get that. But that unaware market is really expensive to talk to because you need a lot of time, money, and energy to do that. It also means you can make a whole bunch of money in that unaware market because look at somebody like somebody like when Dyson first came out with their bagless and cyclone technology, and everybody thought, well, why do I need a brand new, vacuum cleaner? And what is this bagless thing going to do? So they had to educate the market, and they dominated the market. And so but I don't think you and I have time, money, and energy like maybe Dyson does. I don't know. I certainly don't. So I don't want to really speak to the unaware market. I'll let the market decide. I'll let them decide that they do have a problem and then move into the problem aware stage. In the problem aware stage, this moves people toward the problems when they reach the middle and they understand the problems and they have dissatisfactions. When they're sitting in the middle of the awareness levels. When they move into the last stage, they have strong wants and desires. Strong wants plus desires. And that's what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants to be in this most aware. They want people to buy there. But let me explain here that when you're in the unaware, they don't even know they have a problem. Do not know they have a problem. And this is where you're trying to explain to somebody, this is why you're going through this, or this is why you feel this. Like if you look at somebody who is drinking too much, is an alcoholic, and you try to explain to them you're an alcoholic, but they don't know that drinking too much is and being an alcoholic, they don't understand they have a problem yet. And so then we move into the problem aware, where they are aware of it. They are aware of the problem. Okay. And this is where somebody says, yeah, I know I drink a little bit too much, but I might have a little bit of a problem, but I'm not really an alcoholic. So they might be a little bit aware of it. And that is usually where marketers are talking to, and I'll come back to that in a second. The solution aware is when they are actively looking for solution, for a fix. In the product aware stage, they tried to create their own solution from products or programs, right? They hire multiple coaches or they buy multiple programs and they try and piece it all together themselves. But they're in this product aware stage. They know that there's products out there who can help, and they're piecing it all together. And then the last one is they are ready to buy. Cool, right? That's the one that everybody wants. Everybody wants to go from the problem aware, which is where most marketers talk, right, to the most aware, which is buy. They want them to buy right away. And I get that, but they're missing the major, the other two steps that bring people towards buying, and where a lot of marketers lose trust. And that's with the solution aware. So we're speaking to the actively looking for solutions, and the product aware, they're trying to create the solutions, and they're in this zone, right? I said they're in this problem dissatisfaction, and we're not speaking enough to that level. So this is where, when you're creating copy on this, let me just give you examples of the copy. So in unaware, let's go to this one actually, we use orange for copy. Let's say the unaware and you're going to do that. I don't recommend using or talking to the unaware stage. It's just too much work. And actually, before I talk about copy or how to speak to them or marketing messages, let me actually show you what I talk about in Atlas, where the sweet spot is for you to speak to, right? Where that dream customer lives. If you speak to this level, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to move them into the buy stage. And I let the market, so let me go back to this. I let the market, let me use this guy right here. Okay. So I let the market worry about the unaware and the problem aware. I let everybody else do that work for me. So the unaware, I'm not going to speak to it because, again, they don't know they really have a problem. And when they do recognize they have a problem, they're not ready to buy yet. They're still too way early in the process. So I let other companies and programs and all this educate the market to find out what is not working. Okay. And that's when they begin to move into this solution aware stage. They move right over here. And this is where the sweet spot is. So if I take my yellow, will that work? Right over here. That's not going to stand out. Let's use orange right here. This is the sweet spot between solution aware and product aware. And this is where you're speaking to people who are looking for the solution and they've tried a couple things. They already know what's wrong with the market, but they're not satisfied yet because, like I said, they have problems. They're still dissatisfied with what's going on. Let's see if I can move that, get rid of that. Right? So that's the sweet spot. Now, when you speak to people in this area, let me start with the unaware. And like I said, this is not my recommendation, but if you did want to do that, you would lead with stories and insights. And shifting worldviews. Okay? That's what you're doing in the unaware, because just like Dyson did, they're shifting our worldview of like, no, we need a bag in a vacuum cleaner. No, we don't. It'll be completely bagless and we'll be able to suck more dirt up from from the carpets and all that, right? So that's where they're making this, they're creating stories, they're giving us insight about why it's better and why bags suck. And yeah, they do, but not as best as the cyclone, pun intended. And then shifting worldviews. Okay, maybe we don't. Maybe it's cleaner to have a cyclone thing and have bagless and save the environment and all these other things. And that's why you work on stories in that first area. The problem aware stage is naming the pain. I'm going to run out of room here. Let's just do this. Pain. You name the pain. You agitate. Consequences. And why your approach is better. But they're still not ready to buy here. But this is where everybody makes the mistake, because they're trying to sell people at this stage. They're not ready. They're just aware of the problem. The solution aware is where you have categories and you're naming categories and trade-offs. Okay, and why your approach is better again. Actually, no, sorry. This is where you show stakes. So what's going to happen if you don't fix the problem? And this area, the solution aware, is where you talk about your approach. So for example, when people come into my world and they talk about that they can't get their message right or their marketing isn't attracting ideal clients, I tell them that's because you're looking at leads, and ideal clients is in that category of leads and they're not dream clients. And so when they understand there's a difference between dream clients and an ideal client, that's when their worldview opens up. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I've been only focusing on dream clients or ideal clients and leads, and I'm not focusing on dream clients. What's that all about? You see? So they're in that middle phase for me. They're in this looking for a solution because it's not working, whatever they're doing, their ideal client avatar thing. And then I tell them about, you're in this other category, which is leads, and you should be in this other category, which is dream clients. People who are like friends who actually pay you and pay you what you're worth, respect you, all that stuff. And it completely shifts their worldview and puts me into a different category. And that's why I talk about this all the time. In the product aware, there's differentiators. That's when you talk about differentiators. And a lot of people don't know what their differentiator is. Even when I'm working with people, this is one of the hardest areas for me to help them understand. What makes you different than everybody else? And so we need to dig deeper to figure out what those differentiators are. What's the mechanisms, right? What are your mechanisms different than everybody else? So years ago, 2020, when I started the unfunnel movement, removing funnels, simplifying, all that stuff, it was a new mechanism. Now everybody is on top of that, and that's cool, but it's still a new mechanism for me, and it's still where I help people simplify, remove all of the funnel mechanisms, all the steps, taking away 96% of what normal funnels would look like, all of that stuff. So when people hear that and simplify, they want to know more, and it's completely different than what most people are teaching. Now we're on a trend where everybody's beginning to teach like no more funnels, don't do this. So maybe I got to come up with a new mechanism now to maybe promote a little bit more. But that was the key to my success for the last 5 years because it was a new mechanism. What is your new mechanism? And then finally, when you get to the most aware stage, that's the easy one. That's the offer. Like, is the right offer in front of them? Do they have frictionless CTA, right? Do you make it really easy for someone to buy? And this is where a lot of everybody wants, like, I understand this, that everybody wants to be in this most aware stage. They want everybody to be ready to buy, but they push too quickly to move people to that stage, and they lose out because they're not really speaking to the other levels of awareness. Okay, so you have to understand, what do they already believe? What have they tried? What terms do they use so you can speak to this level? What objections continue to keep repeating that you need to speak to? And where did they come from? Where do all those objections, where do all those thoughts, where do they all come from so that you can speak to them on the customer level of awareness? So, as I said, there's the unaware is a promise. There's new perspective. You talk about maybe stories or proof, and it's very light engagement. This is not trying to move someone from unaware and they kind of get it and they're like, oh, maybe I've got a problem, maybe I do, and then right to right to a sale. That's a big mistake, and that's why it doesn't work. But you have to understand, moving them into the problem aware stage is then when you talk about clarity, you talk about consequences, you talk about proof, and maybe checklists. This is where you give a lot of your gifts. This is where lead magnets, I don't like to use the word lead magnet, but just for context of it, it's a gift where you give things to the market so they can understand how to fix a small part of their problem. But again, a lot of people use that lead magnet or that gift, give it away, and then expect somebody to move right to the buy, right to the area where the most aware. They expect, so like right here, let me just do this again. This would be a lead magnet. Lead mag, right? And they give it, and then they expect people to go right to here and buy. And that usually doesn't happen. All right. So let me show you just before I go here and get back to my iPad, actually. So here's what I'm talking about. This is what I just created. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that, right? Let me move this guy out of the way. How do I move this out of the way? Okay. So here's a market toolkit, clarity toolkit. I just started playing around with this with my friend Claude and I, the AI. And it is basically where I'm going to help you stop guessing what to say in your marketing. You'll discover exactly where your market sits in 5 levels of awareness. We're using Eugene's legendary framework, refined around modern business, refined around all the 5 years of Atlas stuff that I've been doing. And then you have 2 areas. One area here is market awareness assessment. So this is where you're going to discover where your market sits at the 5 levels, and spend some time with this. This is not a one and done or like a very quick thing to do. You need to spend a little bit of time. The more time you spend with it and give it the data that it needs, the better it's going to be able to assess where your market is. and it's going to go through 5 guided assessment processes. I tried this really quickly, and it gave me some really great advice because I already had a lot of data that I was copying and pasting in. If you have customer data, that is where you use this customer data. It's going to give you an analysis of your real customer language, precise awareness of the level identification, and strategic recommendations on the next step. The other tool I'm going to give you as well is Connected. So once you understand the level of awareness, then you can generate perfectly targeted copy that matches that market's exact awareness level. So your content is going to be for all 5. I'm going to give you content for all 5 awareness levels, but I'm also going to share with you multiple content format options. I'm going to give you an AI-powered copy generation and psychological trigger explanations of why the copy is made that way. So I'm still playing around with this one because, I'm not a huge fan or a fan at all of just going into AI and saying, hey, write me copy based on, this on my market. This is my market, like heart-centered coaches and practitioners who are struggling to make money. Like, just write me a post. And it could definitely write a post, but it's not real. It's just fabricating data. The more data that you have, the better it's going to be. The more data you put into AI, the better it's going to be able to pull out and use these frameworks and tools that I have to help you. So this is the stuff that I give people in Atlas, but I'm happy to give this to you as a gift. All you got to do is, like I said, give me a comment below. Let me put this back here. Comment Market Clarity, or give me a DM Market Clarity, and I'll set you up with this. Just give me an hour or two to put it all together because I just started this before the show and it's not completely finished yet to where to go grab them. And there you go. I'm hoping this was of value to you. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next week for another heart-centered marketing show. Take care.